The full moon in Capricorn promises to be exceptional, with a few surprises coming up for many people. The full moon happens on June 24th, 2021 at 11:39 a.m. California time. That's 2:39 Eastern and 6:39 p.m. UTC. At the end of the video, I will tell you about readings for your individual zodiac signs. The full moon is the opposition of the sun and moon, with the sun recently entering the sign of Cancer for the beginning of Cancer season. The moon will be in the opposite sign of Capricorn. The energy of the full moon is dynamic and exciting as the sun has activated water energy in the sign of Cancer, while there have been and continue to be other water transits that will make sizable impressions on the energy of this full moon. First, the sun will be forming a trine with Jupiter, bringing more power and abundance into the energy it projects at the moon. Jupiter has been forming several favorable angles with other transits in recent weeks, namely with Venus and Mars, allowing for an ongoing activation of our heart centers and emotional openness. Jupiter and Venus trined on June 4th, while Mars created a trine with Jupiter at the end of April. Look back at these dates to see if there is a series of events that may have occurred that are working in synchronicity together for you now. Furthermore, both Jupiter and Neptune are turning retrograde around the time of the full moon in the water sign of Pisces. Jupiter turned retrograde on June 20th, 2021, and Neptune will go station and turn retrograde later on the same day as the full moon. The energy of these two planets that rule the sign of Pisces is powerful here and influences the full moon with retroactive energy, demanding awareness and reflection of our lives until now, so as to make better steps towards the future. With Mercury retrograde period ending on June 22nd, 2021, many of you may be eager to start new projects and push forward with this energy. However, Neptune and Jupiter do advise that before any steps are taken, you have assessed things of the past or review what resources you already have and use those instead of trying to attain new material objects. The full moon at 3 degrees of Capricorn is a great time to assess and construct positive establishment of material power and strength in our lives. The moon is in detriment in Capricorn because it is furthest away from its ruling sign of Cancer, but don't let that mislead you to thinking it doesn't bring light to the sign of Capricorn. In fact, there is a beautiful harmony of this full moon, as the moon rules the first decan of Cancer, where the sun is, harmonizing this aspect and establishing flow. The moon is also with the star Polis during this full moon. The star brings the energy of material wealth and prosperity, a drive to attain and succeed in what you want to achieve. The full moon is the first full moon since the nodes have switched, as the last full moon eclipse happened in the sign of Capricorn on July 5th, 2020. Maybe this is a good time for you to reflect upon what has changed in your life since nearly a year ago, and try to see if there's a pattern or a motif that has emerged. Maybe this is your opportunity to change. The next full moon eclipse will occur on July 18th, 2027 in the sign of Capricorn. This may be also a part of the cycle pattern this full moon is a part of. Furthermore, you may also want to highlight January 14th, 2029, as this will be the next partial solar eclipse in the sign of Capricorn that will begin a new cycle. Let's talk about some of the major supporting aspects of this full moon. The major aspect that is interacting with this full moon is its favorable harmony to Jupiter. Both the sun and the moon form positive aspects to Jupiter for days before the full moon. This will harmonize the energy of the full moon with love and compassion. This works closely with the reflective element of the full moon caused by the coinciding energies of the retrograde motions of Jupiter and Neptune. Two major energies of the full moon emerge when considering these facts. One, that this moon is slated for material prosperity, and second, this full moon is a messenger moon, soon to bring important information to people in power, or reveal facts about what people in power are trying to achieve. This will happen on a large public level as well as in your individual lives. The main aspect that is directly affecting this full moon in this way is the oncoming opposition between Saturn and Mars. This energy will increase until July 1st, when it becomes exact and then decreases as Mars shoots past Saturn in retrograde motion. They will both move quickly in opposite directions, Mars faster than Saturn. This opposition is one of the most expressive aspects of the early summer, and is an addition to Saturn and Uranus square that was at its peak on June 14. The opposition between Mars and Saturn puts all of us in direct conflict between individual actions and collective coordination. Where Mars is energized by the sign of Leo and eager to act, Saturn is already keenly aware and working on negotiating all of our individual desires to try to coordinate a balance between them. This opposition may have the feeling of me against the world, or a desire to nonchalantly reject cooperation with others. To add to this bilateral conflict of interest, Uranus, the planet of change and the unexpected, is at a T-square to both Saturn and Mars, providing the opportunity for surprise resolutions or new factors affecting situations to prevent themselves. Prepare for things out of the blue with this transit. This big push-pull energy between Saturn, Mars, and Uranus will be a part of a bigger struggle for power and dominance of the ruling powers in public spaces and in our private lives. Don't be surprised if your politicians reveal yet another unannounced plan to further establish their grip on power, or try to implement an even more top-down governance legislation at this time. Because of this, the moon becomes a messenger moon, as it is the fastest transit of the zodiac. The moon, as this type of messenger, evokes compassion and emotions to share information with people who need to be made aware of certain things. My intuitive insight about this current transit is that the days following the full moon, the moon will foreshadow or drop some big hints to the people holding power in situations about the ways they have misused their power and the people they are meant to be serving. This will happen as the moon transits alongside Pluto and later Saturn. The other part of this transit will be synchronistic with Venus and Mars that have been energized by trines to Jupiter and now push forward in their semi-annual series of conjunctions. The last time Venus and Mars were in the same position was in the sign of Virgo on August 24th, 2019. Again, for a personal take on this energy, it's a good idea to look back at the last 2 years and see what's been happening for you in the area of love and relationships. The next time Venus and Mars will join will be in the sign of Capricorn on February 16th, 2022. Right after that, on March 6th, because of Venus's retrograde cycle. Essentially, what Venus and Mars are doing is synchronizing the energy of the feminine and masculine power through early next year. This will empower individuals to act and follow through with their desires and intentions, and in respect to major opposition of Mars and Saturn and Venus and Pluto, this will empower individuals to oppose the despotic energy in their lives and sneak past or confront it. This is the eye-opening energy the moon is bringing to Jupiter through and after the full moon in Capricorn on June 24th. That someone's tyranny is about to be challenged and they better smarten up. The opposition between Pluto and Venus will be exact the day before the full moon. This energy is mostly tangential to the full moon. However, when considering the bigger scheme of challenging authority, the pressure felt by Venus in Cancer will motivate emotions of people to stand up for themselves. It is important to watch the timing of this transit and not act in haste. Allow the feelings of frustration with authority to wash over you, while knowing that a series of events is unfolding that will keep unjust power structures accountable, and soon will be a much better time to act to assert your individual rights and freedoms. This may be considered on both the individual and public level, or maybe even both. Lilith is an aspect to Venus for a few more days, and it is ill-advised to act through the end of this transit on and about July 4th, when Lilith leaves Algol, especially when considering Mars is in fiery Leo and the Pluto-Venus opposition is on a harsh angle to a minor planet called Eris, the goddess of vengeance. There's a saying I heard on social media that reminded me of teachings when I was young, that when the forest gets quiet, it's time to depart. The reason behind the saying is that when a predator or some other danger is in the forest, all the animals get silent, signaling the danger. Be on the lookout for silence in the oncoming days, and don't make too much noise yourself. To summarize the sequence of the full moon as the messenger moon, the moon is being informed by the sun in the decan of Cancer that it rules. The sun is gaining power from Jupiter in Pisces, and the moon is as well. Jupiter is the ruler of justice and fairness. He is watching over you at this time to assure your success. The moon is in Capricorn that is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is in an oncoming opposition to Mars, while both are at a stress angle to Uranus. Further to this, Venus opposes Pluto, squaring Eris and sextiling Lilith, both of which signal that it's not the right time to act out. Finally, the bigger picture is that the moon will shoot past its full moon stage, informed by whichever injustice that needs to be resolved. It will take that information to Pluto and Saturn in a first attempt of a sympathetic appeal to their power, so as to avoid further conflict. When the moon reaches Jupiter on June 28th, the domino effect bringing emancipation will begin. This will be synchronistic to the transit of Venus entering Leo on June 27th. When this happens, Venus and Mars will prepare for their conjunction of passion in Leo on July 13th, in an attempt to emancipate their desires and act on what they truly want, free of the oppressive energy of power and unjust rules around them. Venus and Mars govern our individual experiences, so this transit isn't some telenovela, but rather your individual ability to evade injustice at this time. Over the next several weeks, pay attention to Saturn. It is not only hoarding power for itself, but it is also resolving disequilibrium between yourself and others, and trying to invoke fair and a just system for everyone. So it's time for us to prepare for the full moon in Capricorn. Hopefully you see some of the significance of this energy. If you would like, please leave general questions below and write your sun, moon, and rising sign for me to consider while doing your individual readings for this transit. The individual readings will be on a playlist dedicated to this energy, as well as on your individual playlist by sign. You can find this playlist at the end of the video. Thank you for watching and see you soon.